Welcome to this week's edition of Oregon Minute. Each week, OCA Media features a guest or community leader who shares information on topics important to you, our listeners and viewers. New weekly episodes are broadcast on our cable channels as well as on demand through our YouTube channel. Visit ocamedia.com for more information.
The Oregon Minute is brought to you with financial support from friends of OCA Media and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to today's episode of the Oregon Minute. We're thrilled today to have with us the Director of Public Works, Jeff Rao. Jeff, welcome to the Oregon Minute.
Thank you. It's always fun to do stuff like this.
That's great. We've got some interesting questions for you. I think there's a lot of interest in what goes on in the projects here in Oregon. Just start right off. Let's maybe spend a few minutes talk about 2021 and some of the things that got accomplished in the year. Let's talk about the Main Street project. Everybody knows about the Main Street project. We've had sections of Main Street pretty much closed down every year for the last 3 years.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What all has been going on there? What have we done? What's the current status?
Sure. So Main Street is we still have, believe it or not, county highways that actually run through that run through our village, that are owned and maintained and under the jurisdiction of Dane County Highway District. Dane County has been working with a lot of communities to jurisdictionally transfer those roadways from Dane County to the communities. And under those agreements that we have with Dane County, it involves Dane County working with us, or us working with Dane County really, to bring those roadways up to a like new condition, okay? And so before they're transferred jurisdictionally, it makes sense. You know, before we would take on something, we would want it to be in a like new condition, kind of like if you're buying a used car.
Sure.
So one of the stretches that we did several years ago was Jefferson Street which is County Highway CC, from the downtown all the way out to Ash Street. And in schedule was this last year, which was, I call it County Highway North, but it's actually County Highway MM from Grove Street all the way up to McDonald's. And so what we like to do before we have a project like that is upgrade, if there's a water main upgrade, which we needed to do through that area. There was some very old water main that needed to be upgraded. And so the village came in, hired a contractor, and we did water main upgrade from about where the Oregon Manor is there up to Braun Road.
Oh, okay.
So that's all new water main now. And then behind that crew came the Dane County crew to basically completely rebuild the roadway, curb gutter, and aprons from basically Grove Street all the way up to McDonald's, which is our northern boundary. But then you'll notice they also extended that project up into where they did the roundabout project maybe 10 years ago. 12 years ago, something like that.
On up on the north roundabout.
Correct. And so it was really they looked at it as an opportunity to really kind of make sure that whole stretch is new and easy to maintain and everything. So that was a very disruptive project, obviously. Anytime you talk about upgrading a arterial through your village or city is very difficult. It's hard on residents. It's hard on businesses. I will say the project lasted longer than we anticipated. It was out of our control. Dane County did a very nice job. I always say this, is sometimes projects take longer, and that's okay as long as you're getting the quality of work and it's being done right. Dane County did a great job with that. They had a lot of projects going on in the county, and I think they were stretched a little thin crew wise. So it took longer, but I think I've heard nothing but extremely positive comments back from residents and business owners on how nice it is and how overdue it really was.
Well, it's really nice to drive down Main Street, right? You almost want to have one of those lowrider cruisers so you could, slowly go down the street and really enjoy the smooth ride.
Exactly. That, Oregon 25, we call it, right? But it is really nice. And, truly it's been a wonderful upgrade. And I really do thank the business owners and I thank the residents for their patience. Hopefully we can see the end product and appreciate it.
It does look beautiful. Another project I know was on your list, and I think probably there was more that happened than you really expected. There was the Rotary Trail. There was some work done there.
Yeah, so we've been very disappointed, along with residents both in the village and in the town, on the flooding of the Rotary Trail. And we've spent a lot of time talking about that for the last couple of years and the causes of it, and the fact that Lake Barney was at literally historic high levels. We saw that receding, and finally, for the first year and a half in a very long time period, we actually had a dry period and continue to have a semi below average rainfall and precipitation, which has resulted in allowed that Lake Barney to recede. And when we started to see it recede, we saw that we could at least do a temporary measure to reopen the path by bringing in compacted granular fill. And so we have about a 1,200-foot stretch of road of the path that is still compacted granular fill. We'd like to move the path to higher ground and acquire easements in the future. And that just hasn't been possible in the past. We've just run into some complications. We're still working with the landowners. When they're ready to kind of talk about easements again, we'll be able to move that to higher ground. But for the time being, we have an open path from one end to the next. And it's the response from that has been very positive. I mean, it's at least we can get through. I've ridden on it numerous times and it's great. My crews, we did it with my public works crews. They did a phenomenal job, just literally hauling the materials with flatbeds and using our own village equipment to be able to spread that out and compact it.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to get all the way from one end to the other without having to get your feet wet.
That is exactly right. And what was also happening is people were trespassing off of the path into the woods and around, and we don't want that either. We don't want that for the landowners and for safety. And
so what are some of the other projects from 2021 that you finished up this year? Any surprises in there?
Not too many surprises. I think probably the biggest surprise for any of us has just been the extra attention on some of the lands that are along Alpine Parkway. There's been a lot of attention given to those. What we term as the West Side Park is in our master plan for playing fields and playing field development out there. And then when we purchased the former school site back from the school district, that project or that property coming into play, a lot of the things going with the library. I think that's kind of been the surprise for everybody, is just, there's been a lot of discussion, meetings, communication, social media, everything in dealing with that type of situation. And us trying to make sure that both the village board, the library board, everyone has the proper information in place to be making wise decisions.
Yeah, you're going to be doing some core samples out there, aren't you? Isn't that that's the sort of the interim step here to kind of see what really is all there?
Correct. Yeah, then we had a wetland study done out there in anticipation that this could be a site that would be considered. That's come back and it looks good. I mean, it's identified the areas that we think that we've always believed to be probably wetland or wetland type areas. And we're working right now to get contractor estimates and proposals for geotechnical drilling to be able to look at some of the subsurface soils and their acceptability for potential construction of the library out there at that site.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's just so you keep moving forward on the library. It's been a long project. I know that's been on our books for a very, very long time, that people really would like to see the library move forward. I guess that kind of covers the projects for 2021. I kind of wanted to talk about the leaf pickup process. We're just finishing that season up. I contribute about 27 cubic yards of leaves every year myself. So Can you talk about that process? What happens to all those leaves?
Well, for one thing, I hope people have noticed a much better response in our ability to be able to pick up the leaves and serve the village. Several years ago, we purchased a $200,000 self-contained leaf vacuum truck, has dual steering controls, joystick for the control of the suction tube. It makes our ability to be able to go through the village just super fast. It used to take us during the peak of the leaf season, it could take us with 2 crews almost 2 to 3 weeks to go through the entire village. And with the
Wow.
truck we have right now, we can do that in about a week with one
Wow.
truck and one individual.
Yeah.
So it's not just faster and more efficient. It has greatly reduced the number of complaints that we would get from residents that put my leaves out and you haven't been by and it's almost 2 weeks. And
Sure.
and our staff here in the village hall has done a really nice job of keeping people apprised of where we are with collecting the leaves. But yeah, a lot of people, have no idea where they go after that. The leaves that we collect and also the yard waste, we haul just south of town here. There's a farmer that has allowed us to place those leaves there where he composts those and uses those for his farming activities. So we like it. It's a very natural process, but we don't have much to do with once the leaves are deposited on the farm ground. The farmer takes those and churns those in and uses those for compost.
So do you don't actually do any composting on site then? It's all hauled. So the leaves are all hauled off to another site to actually where
Correct.
the
Yeah.
compost.
Leaves and yard waste.
Right.
So and pumpkins, I think, as you wanted to mention, everyone is always wanting to know. The pumpkins really should go in the yard waste. That's a very easily compostable type material and everything. So it doesn't hurt if it goes in the brush pile. But yeah, I think I've seen people where they actually even set it on the middle line, that way it's halfway between. But those are easy to get rid of too.
Okay. So all right. So the pumpkins it's better for you, I guess, if we dump them right on the leaf pile along with the rest of the compostable kinds of stuff.
Correct. Correct.
So what happens to all the brush pile then? That I know it gets chipped up, but I don't know exactly what happens with that after that.
Correct. So the brush we pay when we contract twice a year to have a very large machine come in. It's a service that we hire out and contract out to grind that into a mulch. That gets loaded onto trucks. Some of the trucks go to Purple Cow, which is over in Verona, and some of it gets hauled back to their facility. And beyond that, we really don't follow that stream of material. I don't want to call it a waste stream because it's not really a waste stream, but we don't follow it beyond when it goes out of our site.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it's difficult because there's some communities I know that I've talked to where they grind it and they pile it, and then every year that pile just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's kind of a growing, like, what are we going to do with it type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've always made sure that our contractors haul that material away, and we make sure it's, we tell them it has to be at an approved disposal location.
Yeah, and just in case any of our listeners don't know where the leaf dump is, it's right across from the ice arena. Yep. There on Prairie Parkway. You also have a metal bin there. What all are we supposed to be putting in that metal bin?
Great question. The metals recycling bin is something that we when we redid that site maybe 4 years ago, the Boy Scouts had been placed, or not, sorry, the baseball club or the baseball group had a metals recycle bin, and it was over in the parking lot of the ice arena, which was not a permitted use, and we wanted to make sure it was in a good spot. So we provide a concrete pad out there. The baseball club is totally responsible for it, but it should only be just metals. It's a fundraiser for them. It's a great service to our village. The group out there does take care of it. The difficulty is people sometimes feel that anything can go out there, couches, things that aren't, you know, just because a mattress, just because it has metal springs does not mean it's metal recyclable in that state. And a lot of people think we are bluffing when we say it's under surveillance. We've had two instances in the last year where we have had to report contractors dumping brush and stuff at the site. We were able to catch those and they were cited. And then a person came in and dumped a large sectional couch. The police department was easily able to identify that individual from our surveillance video, and that person was given the option to remove the couch or face fines.
Yeah.
And so it's truly, you know, metals and metal recyclables can be left there. And as I understand it, that they have, you know, I think 60, 70,000 pounds a year that are able to be recycled out of that.
Do they take like refrigerators and things like that, or is it just metal objects?
You know, I've seen some things like some stoves and stuff out there. To be honest with you, we don't really get into it too much, but I think they've been taking stuff that is primarily metal. I don't believe it can take water softeners, which I've seen, or not water softeners, water heaters out there. But I think my recommendation is always, if it's mostly or 90 some odd percent metal, I'm sure you're fine. If it's got metal in it but not primarily a metal component, don't place it there.
Okay, that's a good piece of information for that one.
And we're watching.
And you're watching, so
we're watching. Yes.
Okay, big brother.
Yep.
Let's kind of switching from, we talked a little bit about the leaf pickup and kind of the fall season. We're kind of getting out of that. They're predicting snow here, soon. So,
yep.
Kind of switching over from fall to winter. So let's talk about the snow plowing process a little bit. Just how much salt do you use? How much snow plowing is there every year? What all goes into that?
Sure. Well, we start usually in October looking at preparing for the snow season and the plowing season. So we want to make sure all of our equipment is ready to go. We use large dump trucks with plows on them that everyone sees and carries the salt. We have a very large Volvo front end loader, and we have a lot of smaller equipment. Like a lot of our John Deere mowers have, the snow blowers and the brushes and the plows on top of them. So we have to make sure that's all ready to go. And honestly, my crew and my staff does a phenomenal job of getting ready for that. The other thing is salt, and this has been a discussion I've had with the board, and something we'll be continuing to look at every year. Is our salt usage continues to go up, and if you'll notice in the headlines and some of the environmental papers that are around, salt levels and chloride levels in Badfish Creek, Yahara River water chain, everything's going up because everyone puts salt on the roads. That salt has to go somewhere. And so what happens is you start to see in the runoff and see in these receiving streams higher level chlorides. And so, I think we want to continue to always look at ways that we can either reduce the amount of salt we use, because it's over 700 tons a year. And that's a lot of salt for just a community of 10,000. Think of what City of Madison uses, or some of these other communities like Verona or whatever that are much larger. But the other thing we have to look at is trying to change maybe the perspective of some of our residents that feel that we should always have dry, clean, snow-free, ice-free roads all the time. If we can learn to drive better, I mean, there are many municipalities throughout the United States that their residents learn to drive on ice and snow, and you just have to drive slower and prepare to stop sooner and everything. But I think that's a way that environmentally we can reduce the amount of salt that we would use annually. We're also looking at brine systems for our trucks. As we look towards purchasing new trucks, we're looking at possibly a brining system that would allow to pre-treat the roads, which would allow us to use less salt in the long run.
That's I guess I've seen that on like the highways out where they have you see the stripes.
Yes.
Where they've sprayed.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about?
It's a brine, it's a salt brine solution that is sprayed down. It would be like You'll probably see a lot of it today because we're expecting, well, we won't see it today because we're expecting rain first because the rain will wash it off.
Right.
But prior to a snow event, you'll see the trucks out there that apply it. It dries, and basically what it does is help keep the snow from sticking. It's kind of a pre-treatment that allows the snow to not stick to the roads as much, makes it easier for plowing. And the theory is then you can use less salt.
Sure. So you mentioned, you were looking forward, we've got a snow event coming up here in a day or so, and you start looking at maybe there's going to be rain, maybe there's not. So what's your whole decision process kind of thing that you have to go through each time we have a snow or
Sure.
expecting
Sure.
a snow event?
Sure. Well, we work together. Myself, primarily, it's my street superintendent is in charge of kind of determining when we're going to have the plows out. But we work together to talk about what kind of might be our plowing plan. Specifically in the middle of winter when we see something coming, sometimes it's best to just let the snow fall and then try to time it so that you're getting your crews out there at or close of the end of the snowfall. So then you're not having to plow streets 3 and 4 times. We have just over 46 miles of roadway in the village that we have to plow, plus public parking lots, plus public sidewalks that are in the downtown area and other areas. So, we have a lot to do. Our crews do an outstanding job with it. But, a lot of it is just, as it depends on the size of the storm, the temperature, what we'll be dealing with, whether we'll be having wind predicted, and we'll have to look at our staffing too. With COVID, we hope and pray we never have COVID run through our staff and then be facing a large storm with only 50% of our staff available.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I guess almost like every snowfall is a separate project, separate thing. You've got to think about what's the pieces of this time
Exactly.
that you're dealing with.
And what's the best time to have people out? I mean, we have
Yeah.
to make sure that, and it has to be looking at when is the snow going to stop? When is it going to start? When we want to try to make sure that most of the major roads are open and passable for emergency services at all times. But then also, if you're going into a Monday morning and everyone's going to be headed to work, you might send your crews out earlier on Sunday night to kind of make sure that we're ahead of that.
So I guess what kind of things can the people do to make things better for the snow plowers? There seems to be that there's things that we could do to make things better.
Right. I have a cartoon down at the Public Works shop, and it shows the snowplow coming down the road, and of course the snowplow is pushing all the snow into the driveways, and then it has driveways and sidewalks, and then it has in the other portion of the cartoon is a person with a snowblower blowing all the snow from the sidewalk and driveways out into the roadways. And that's just kind of how things happen, and that's really it doesn't help us out at all. In fact, our ordinance don't allow you to put snow from your driveway into the roadway, but it's difficult. The snow has to go somewhere. It's not always an even distribution of snow that you get in your driveway versus your neighbor's driveway. And
I always blow my snow into my neighbor's driveway, but yeah.
Right, exactly. And so it's difficult, depending on where you are on a corner, it can be really bad as the snowplow comes around. But that snow has to go somewhere. And again, our residents expect clean, clear roads, and it takes a couple passes for us to do that. And if people have their cars parked out in the street or wherever, it makes it more difficult. So it's not an easy process. And when you end up getting late in the season where you have a lot of snow and the banks are now full, it just makes it more and more difficult. But we just ask people to try to clear as much as they can, push it into their yards. If they're snow blowing, push it towards their yards, and that really helps create that storage space in the terrace area for the snow.
Sure. Okay, so kind of moving on then, I guess, kind of to wrap things up here, let's talk about 2022. What can we expect? I know we've got the Village Hall move coming up. That's got to be a big project for you.
We're working really hard, and it's difficult. Construction prices are high, and so we're trying to remodel the bank building to make it a safe and a good usable space for the Village Hall for many, many years to come. And so we're going to have that construction project. The design is underway on that. That's going to be a very big project for all of us. And then, like you said, the move, and our staff here in the Village Hall are doing an outstanding job of trying to go through decades and decades of papers that maybe have never been filed or gone through, that we don't need to keep, but we don't want to move. And so that's a big project. Other project, we got the library project coming on. We have JC Park West project we hope to start this spring.
How much will that tear up the use of JC Park? Is that the whole thing, or are we just doing part of it this year?
Well, we're going to be discussing that in a park board meeting coming up. But that project, due to funding and just costs of everything else, honestly, has just gone up so markedly that we're going to have to phase that project. So there's a likelihood that a portion of that park will still remain open through construction. But it will be a major disruption to that park in that area.
Sure.
Other projects that we have, we'll be doing the Perry Parkway, Janesville intersection signalization, and that will close down that intersection as well as a few hundred feet to the east as we do water main there in preparation for the Janesville Street reconstruction, which will actually be 2023. So what we just did to North Main will happen on Janesville Street from basically Triangle Park down to Perry Parkway in 2023.
Well, that's a major thoroughfare for me, Jeff. That's not good news.
That will be a yes. Plan on vacationing somewhere all summer of 2023 to avoid that.
Great. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah. But it'll be nice when it's done.
I was gonna say, when it's always when it's done, it's wonderful. Those streets are really nice when you get a completely reworked and it's all nice and smooth again. So one of the things, just want to talk about issues that you typically find in your projects here in Oregon. One of the things that came up and was mentioned in the library discussions that you sort of forget. You kind of know, and it's there. There is an underground creek that goes through a lot of Oregon. Then there's just the whole thing that everything that kind of east and north of Janesville and Main Street, there used to be a swamp.
Well, yeah, I mean, Oregon has never been known as high ground, especially in the area that was part of the original settlement of our area here. I mean, it's not a coincidence that we have Brook Street and Spring Street. We have a marsh court, we have all of these. So it's funny, but it's also the reality we deal with. The quote unquote river through the downtown, that's basically the Oregon branch of the Badfish Creek. And if you can see it, if you're out on North Burr Oak, you cross over that before you get to the industrial park area there. Right. That all ends up in a 84-inch diameter concrete pipe. Basically, it's a culvert that goes under the village, and it starts at Quick Trip in the downtown there, and it's not exposed again until Oak Street, just downstream of Oak Street near the new youth center.
Oh, okay.
And so that's an 84-inch diameter concrete pipe that conveys everything through and kind of under the village and Brook Street. That originally was a creek, through the entire downtown. And it was at one time a metal pipe that was all rusted and failing. And that was replaced, I believe, in 2006, 2007, sometime around there. And there were some major problems with that. But the improvement of that and the construction of that has really helped the downtown area. We've not experienced any significant flooding in our downtown area, which has been very, very good. But everything we have, the area that the Village Hall is built on right now, the bowling alley area, the library, if you dig down, you will find water in the ground 2 to 4 feet below the ground surface. Wow. So it's a very wet area, especially with the wet seasons we've had.
Sure.
But and that's just part of what we deal with living in Oregon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and if you know those going into the projects, we just have to take that into account. And over the years, you tend to forget about some of that. Why can't I just put something anywhere? And it doesn't sort of work all the time.
Right, right. There are definitely good places. People always say, "Well, can't we build down at the dog park?" Well, the dog park is one step above a swamp. That's never been good land. There's a reason it was available when they were looking for a dog park many years ago. But and it works great. The dogs don't seem to mind, but it's not the best land. And
Sure.
it's just part of what we have in Oregon.
Hmm. So, any other projects? Anything else anything you want to finish up, or comments you want to pass on to
You
our
know,
listeners about what's going on in Oregon, or ideas
Ab-
that you might
Absolutely.
appreciate?
We do a lot of things in this village, and I'm very excited to see where we are going. I think we are going to experience some significant growing pains in the coming years because our population is growing. We have wonderful subdivisions out in Highlands of Netherwood out there, Autumn Ridge, Bergamot is finishing its final phases, which is amazing because that's closure of almost 20-25 years of one of the most major subdivisions for our area here in a long time. And so we're seeing a lot of growth, and we're having to improve buildings and facilities that have not had a lot of care in the last 30-40 years. I mean, they've been used and used well, but they're at or beyond the end of their useful life. So it's going to put a stress on us all. But I think in the end, we still are able to maintain this wonderful community that we have. It's an incredible downtown and small town atmosphere. We've raised our kids here and they've thrived in here. And it's neat to see young families move in and encourage them because they've picked an incredible community. And we're biased, of course, but it is I just think we're going to have a lot going on.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate your comments today, Jeff. Want to thank you for taking the time out and joining us. Look forward to talking to you again here in the future.
Great, thank you. Anytime.
Okay. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Oregon Minute. If you're interested in serving on the board of directors of the OCA Media, we currently have positions available. We always appreciate your sponsorship, your feedback, and your comments. Please contact Paul at ocamedia.com. Thanks for watching.
You're watching OCA Media, your Oregon Community Access Station.